Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Marciano here, working on a screencast for you to accompany your compositions for this week, distance learning week 7. I will say I am outside, so if you hear some outside sounds, um, that is why. It's like slightly breezy. There are definitely some birds and cars driving by. My dogs are out here with me, and sometimes they bark. So if that happens, I'll just wait for them to be done and continue. All right. Anyway, this week we have two steps for you to proceed in writing your melody. And the first step is to add rhythm. And then the second step is to add some non-chord tones, which I'll explain to you later on in the video. I will say that there is a companion guide to go along with this video. It's called Adding Rhythms and Adding Neighbor Notes, or it'll just say Adding Non-Chord Tones. Actually, I'll change the title of that, but that'll be in the HyperDoc as well. So definitely watch that and definitely show up to your Google Meet for this week because we will go over this again. All right, so a couple of things to keep in mind. I'm writing this melody. It's different from Miss Easterge's from last week. I'm just doing 4 measures. It's a tonic chord, which has do, mi, and so. It is a subdominant, which has fa, la, and do. And it is a dominant chord that is so, fa, re, ti. And then it is a tonic chord that has do, mi, and so again. Those are what we call chord tones. Okay, they are the notes that are a part of the chord. If you are unfamiliar with those, go back to HyperDocs ago where I made that sheet that has what notes go along with each chord. Okay, sorry, my allergies are killing me too, so if I'm sniffling a little bit, that is why. I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to add some rhythm. So I'm in 2/4 time, and I did all quarter notes, and it goes do, mi, fa, la, so, fa, mi, do. That's my melody. Okay, nice and simple. Doesn't go too high. It's all chord tones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a little rhythm to it. And the rhythm, I decided to repeat the rhythm a lot. And I will say, just like in we've talked about in class with coming up with a good melody, you want things that repeat, including rhythm. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, instead of quarter note, I'm going to do a rhythm that is 2/8 notes and a quarter note for the first measure, 2/8 notes and a quarter note for the second measure. For the third measure, I'll switch it. So I'll do a quarter note and 2/8 notes, and then I'll end with 2/8 notes and a quarter note again. And that'll look like this. All right. So if you click here on the 8th note and go over the note that you already have, you click it, it turns it into an 8th note. So I'm doing 2/8 notes and a quarter note. I'm leaving that. Okay, second measure, same thing, 2/8 notes, quarter note, leaving that. For the third measure, I'm going to switch them just to make it a little more interesting. So I'll leave that first one, and I'll make these 2 notes 8th notes, and then finally I'll end with 2/8 notes and a quarter note. Okay, so if you remember correctly from a second ago, we had just quarter notes in each measure, and it sounded like, before it sounded like this. Do, mi, fa, la, so, fa, mi, do. And now just to make it a little more interesting, I did do, mi, fa, la, so, fa, mi, do. Okay? So that's all I did to change the rhythm. Um, again, keep in mind, you want to keep it simple. You do not need to use this rhythm. You are free to come up with your own. Just make it interesting. And remember, don't make it too complicated. Nobody wants to play or listen to a melody that is too complicated. Okay? All right. And it's just more work for yourself. Okay. Now what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about non-chord tones. So this is the next step after you add the rhythm. All right. We have 2 different kinds of non-chord tones this week. The 2 kinds we're talking about are passing tones and then neighbor notes. Okay. So I'm going to show you the 2 different ones. All right. So we're starting in this first measure. I'm going to demonstrate what a passing tone is. So this is do, and it just goes do, do, mi. So I can make that second note a passing tone to get from do to mi. And the way to do that is I will change this do to a re. Hang on. The way I know how to do that is by deleting it, going back to eighth note, adding it. Sorry, I made it a mi. Here we go. So instead of do, do, mi, it goes do, re, mi. And that's what we call a passing tone. If you look at it, you can literally see it's passing from do to mi, do, re, mi. Okay. All right. Now, to demonstrate a neighbor tone, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change, instead of starting, or you know what, instead of starting or ending on la here, I'm going to move this note back down to fa, just to demonstrate what a neighbor tone is. Okay, so in this measure we have do, re, mi. Second measure we have fa, fa, fa. What I'm going to do is demonstrate a neighbor tone by deleting this fa and making that a so. This. So now instead of fa, 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 it's fa, so, fa. Okay, so if you remember before, it was do, do, mi, fa, 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 and now it's do, re, mi, fa, so, fa. A little bit more interesting, right? Good. All right, so now you have those two options. Okay, you can do the passing tone or the neighbor tone. It's called a neighbor tone because it goes away from the note and then comes back to it. Okay, it's just going to the neighbor note. So in this measure, I think what I'm going to do is keep it so fa, and I will change that last fa that you see there to a mi. So I'll use a passing tone here. And then I will use another passing tone here in that last measure to make it a little more interesting. Instead of mi, mi, do, it'll go mi, re, do. All right, so I just made very little changes, and with these changes, it made my melody just a lot more interesting. Okay, so remember, originally, if you scroll back a couple of minutes, my melody was do, mi, fa, la, so, fa, mi, do. Then I changed it to do, do, mi, fa, la, so, fa, mi, do. Then I changed it to do, re, mi, fa, so, mi, re, do. Okay, pretty easy, not too challenging. You know, and as you're going through, if you find adding these things is making your melody just sound like you want to change something, go ahead and change something. You're not stuck with what you have. Okay, you're the composer, you can make the decisions. So again, watch this video, read this sheet along with it, and please come to the Google Meet session. All right. Thank you so much for your hard work. I cannot wait to see what you come up with.